Welcome to the Masters of the Nerdiverse podcast, where we always have such sights to show you. I'm, of course, your host, Mike G, and back with me is our resident LV426 survivor herself, Tootie Odin. How you doing, Toots?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing excellent. It's a sauna in here today, so if you see me sweating
Uh-huh.
profusely, I already apologize.
About 15 seconds before we started this, I was a raging monster. So this isn't
That's
even my real voice.
I'm mad all the time.
Yeah, it's a hell of a setup.
This is how we work around here. You guys don't understand that we're literally. Everyone thinks the Nerdiverse is like this super happy place. No, it's just Lovecrafty and horror, but with a smile. And now you get to see the smile because we're on YouTube. What? Remember
At
that?
least
What?
we're recording now. At
Yeah,
least we're good now. Like this
we're.
this is this is where happiness starts.
This is where the happiness begins. This is where Disneyland opens. After you spent $1,000, you're happy. This is how it works.
Hmm.
So speaking of Disney, speaking of Fox, today we're here to talk about a movie that I was extremely surprised about, and a movie that I'm happy to introduce you to in a weird way, the Alien universe, and that is 2024's Fide Alvarez's Alien Romulus. So I'm gonna go ahead and start our sharing our slides here. Our beautiful production value by yours truly. Nice. Um, I did it myself, guys, with crayons in in
Hmm.
in blood, and I wanted to talk of an alien blood. No, I was working out the other day, and I got a little white like sweat. And I'm like, am I a synthetic? Might be, might be. I might
Hmm.
be the Michael
Hmm.
model. So enough
I
of my
can see it.
tomfool. Like we can see it. Enough of my tomfoolery. Let's talk about our initial thoughts. So, what was your expectations going into this movie, Tootie?
Well, my initial thought of this movie was lame. That was because I had no interest in any of these. I don't like sci-fi in general, except for Star Wars. Um, but I don't. Had no interest in this franchise at all. I've never seen it, even when I was a kid, outside of clips. Um, so that being said, you had me watch Alien and Aliens before even watching this one, which I was open to. I was totally open to watching this one, but you said probably watch the other two before we get into this one, which
Yeah,
was a good call because now I have so much to say about this one. Um, I loved them. What the heck? Where have they been all my life? Movie was Alien one was amazing. Aliens was insane. I finally realized where you got game over, man, game over. I'm like, oh my god, he said the line. But that being said, my initial thought of this movie was, yeah, I'm not interested. Once I saw the other two, not that I was hyped to see it, but I was curious to see where the next story was going to go. Kind of happy after seeing this one that there was a couple that I missed out on. I know there's an entire there's a whole ass series of them, but I like that I stopped where I stopped. So yeah, initially, all right, let's do it. That was my initial thought about it. I was, like I said, just open to it, and aside from that, um, that's pretty much it. No expectations.
very good, very good. Very similar, even with my history of Alien. And Alien was on when I was a child. I used to watch Aliens with my dad and with my mom. So all that game over, man, game over. Like that's been in my DNA since I was like 0 years old. So, but like you mentioned, not watching the other ones, I've watched the other ones, and we'll talk about the lineage of this franchise. But I came in with zero expectation. The only thing that had me hype was the director, Fede Alvarez, because he has a track record of doing um, like sequel prequel new thing. He did it with Evil Dead, and Evil Dead rocked. I recommend you want to have a good time watching a horror movie, watch Evil Dead. And his involvement is what got me excited for this movie. Because of the weird track record of this series, I was just like, I'm just gonna go with floor expectations and see what happens. And I was thoroughly surprised. So that was my initial thoughts. I was just like, let's just have a good time. Don't make it more than what it needs to be. And with those expectations, they were exceeded. So it will definitely go into that as we discuss it any further. Any any additional thoughts before we move on to our next talking point?
Yeah, no, I not really. All I can say is your advice to watch the other two really helped when it came to this one. So
I, yeah,
yeah,
yeah, it's almost required reading, so to speak. You know what I mean?
kind of.
So let's talk
Yeah,
about it. Let's talk about the Alien
there we
franchise.
go.
And how important it is to pop culture, to the nerdiverse, for that matter. The Alien franchise is such a strange franchise, and it almost reminds me of the Resident Evil series, if that makes any sense, where half of it wants to be deep, scary survival alien type atmosphere, where it's very heavy, very oppressive, but the other half is like guns, 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 guns. And it's like all action packed and crazy. And ever since then, every movie has tried to give a little bit of both, and sadly, it's never really landed. So this is a very hit or miss franchise, just in its duality. So having watched Alien, having watched Aliens, having watched AVP, that you told me one of the only movies you ever watched was like AVP, where they were fighting in that Mayan
Hmm.
temple in the snow. What are your feelings about the Alien franchise?
I think it rules. I wish I had watched it a lot, a lot sooner. I'm kind of glad I didn't because those movies were surprisingly way more terrifying than I had even expected.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, I'm not scared of aliens. I'm not like that's so. It's like being scared of a werewolf. I don't know. I see it. I don't find them scary. But these movies were that they were absolutely terrifying. Um, and done really well. I think I think Alien was way ahead of its time.
hmm,
Like I don't know if I don't know if it's just been remastered. You know how they anyway it was just when I watched it on Disney Plus, it looked like it was a brand new movie, like a movie that had just come out. So that helped a little bit, I guess. But but yeah, the whole franchise is amazing. Um, I like that there's a lot of elements to what was back then in 1979, the future, like 2024 would be the future to 1979, obviously.
hmm,
There's a lot of what's going on now happening in those movies, as far as like ID tags and stuff like that. Obviously, a corporation basically running a galaxy type shit. You know what I mean? Like, we're not on that level, but it's very similar. There's a lot of similarities to the future being now and what their future was. Like what they saw as the future of 21 whatever year it was is kind of like there's a lot of similarities anyway, which I think is pretty cool. Um, AVP is the only one I saw because I thought that was pretty sweet. I thought that was a pretty sweet premise. Apparently, according to the nerds, it's not a very good movie. I loved it. I'm not. I'm not. I'm cut from a different cloth, so I
I
really
hear it.
liked it. It was really fun. um, I'm kind of glad I didn't see the other ones because upon seeing the first two, I'm starting to hear and watch other reviews of the older movies and saying that number three was really no good. I really and then anyway I don't really know how many there are because again I only really paid attention to the first two, but apparently it was a good call. So yeah, and then as far as this one goes, this one is sort of mid. It sort of is prequel, sequel, sort of
Yeah.
part one and a half of part one. It's really right in the middle there,
Hmm.
um, which is really cool. It's really cool that it's kind of squozed in its own way. But I'm sure there's going to be future talk on that. But yeah, there we go.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And I love that you mentioned that the tech is so old, but it's new, and that beat up, rundown, blue collar future that all these movies take. It's not Star Trek, right? Where it's so clean and pristine. Like everybody's going through it in these
Hmm.
movies, especially like Alien, the first one. And you mentioned like how ahead of the time it was. Imagine seeing that back like in 1979 or whenever this came, when the original came out, and being like, what am I looking at? I think a lot of the
Mhm.
terror of these movies comes from that HR Deeger, what am I staring at design, and just blowing your mind and erasing expectation. But like you said, you've seen so many movies now, the alien is like kind of numbed. You know what I mean? That fear is numbed. So how do you make that scary again? How do you make new generations fear it? And I think this movie does a pretty good job at balancing that and just how you light them, how you present them, versus having it out on a sidewalk at 1 o'clock in the afternoon waving at you. You know what I mean? They total terror gone, but it makes you afraid of it. So I love this franchise and I hate this franchise at the same time. It just had so much potential, but I think this is setting it back on a positive direction. Would you say?
I agree. That being excuse me. That being said, I think I'm going back and thinking what movies did actually scare the crap out of me that involved aliens, and I think the two biggest ones I can think of are Independence Day and Signs.
Yeah,
Independence Day, this the scene where he grabs the doctor and he's talking through the doctor,
I
like
love
what
that
the
scene.
heck, like that's insane. But so in a well-rounded way, aliens are kind of terrifying. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like just everything about them should be terrifying, and yet we're so desensitized to them, partially because a lot of the movies are campy, but the ones that aren't really do it well. And I agree that this movie did a great job in doing that. um there's a specific scene that in Alien Romulus that I found extremely disturbing, absolutely unnecessary. Movie could have ended before it, but extremely disturbing. Like hell no. And what made it terrifying is like, holy shit, it does seem very possible. I know we'll get there, but that's something that sticks out to me. It's like, oh wait, like that kind of brings it back down to reality. You know what I mean? The fact that, oh, aliens are this otherworldly being that we'll never ever see, and they probably don't exist, and they're probably like a unicorn, blah blah blah. But then there's that other side of it where it's like, well, if they do exist, guess what they're going to do to us? Guess what they're
yeah,
going to do with us? Like, it's just like, oh man, like, hello, we forget that if if ever there was a potential for that, we're fucked. Pardon my
yeah,
French.
100%.
So that's what's terrifying. This movie is a good reminder of
Absolutely.
why we should be scared of aliens.
Why you should be scared of the dark, scared of the other. You know what I mean? And pro tip, if you really want a movie that's gonna bake your noodle, have you ever seen Fire in the Sky? That's
No,
the scariest alien movie ever. I can't watch it. It's that bad. It gives me nightmares.
I,
So
I
if you
want to
want like
watch it.
if you want to take the hot wing challenge and watch Fire in the Sky, and everybody who knows what I'm talking about in the comments, please tell Tootie no. That movie is crazy. So
When did it come out?
like 1990s ish, like 96,
Okay,
95. Oh boy.
okay.
I don't like it. It's so scary I didn't like it. You know that quote. It's
All
so
right.
scary I didn't like it. So with
Yep.
that, I want to go ahead and talk about the passing of the torch. Um, from our titular hero, Ellen Ripley, in almost all the movies. She's in a good. I think Sigourney Weaver even owns a deciding chunk of the Alien franchise, so nothing gets past her. So she had to okay this film, and there is a big history of making a new Alien film that was outside of the clutches of Ridley Scott because he did Prometheus and Alien Covenant, and those didn't really land as well. So they wanted to go with fresh blood, and they went with a director who they felt could do it. And he pretty much told him, "Don't f it up." That was his only note to the director: "Don't f it up." And he's like, "Well, thank you. I guess I won't." So, how did you feel about after seeing Alien and Aliens and how Sigourney Weaver just commands that role? Do you feel this movie did a good job with the passing of the torch, giving us in, characters we can invest in?
Yes and no. Yes. I think the lady, the girl who played Rain, did a great job. She was Sigourney Weaver Jr. She was Ripley Jr. Um, Perfect job. I loved it. Very kick ass. And no, because I can't relate to these children. Like
For real.
everybody was really young in this movie. Like I can't relate to them. You know what I mean? I think I think there were decisions made, impromptu decisions made in the film, not like directorial, like actually like part of the plot that were impromptu decisions made out of immaturity that Ripley would have never made.
Yeah, and that adds to the fear, I think, because they're making dumb
Yeah,
decisions.
it does. Right, it does. It adds to the fear. The concept of the movie, the plot of the movie, that's it. It works well only because it's being done by ambitious young people who who have been screwed over by the man. I mean, it's basically it's a pretty political story, on the outside looking in. They've been screwed over by the man. Let's figure a way out of this. That's a typical like impulse, young person. We got this move. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? And
100%.
like I don't think in 1979 it was anything. I don't think Alien was anything like that. I think every move was calculated. Not always the best. Obviously, not those weren't educated. They were educated moves, calculated moves, but obviously didn't end. They didn't. The result ended up the same. And this one, it's the exact opposite. It's not. Look, this we're out of here. Blah blah blah. It was more of that. Which works well because like I said, they're kids. It works well for these. They really are kids. They're like maybe in
Yeah,
their 20s, early 20s, if that,
early 20s.
or whatever space years. I don't know how space years work, but yeah. I think the passing of the torch worked well because it worked well age-wise. Like it was age appropriate. Like if it was a bunch of adults doing this stuff, like a bunch of like grown older people like doing this stuff, making the certain decisions that this crew made, it wouldn't have landed well. So I think it was age appropriate. I think the casting was great. I think the casting was really good, actually.
Yeah, it was excellent
for this movie.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that you mentioned that it's like in these movies, there's always, how do we get our characters in this situation? Right? Like, how do we get them from A to B? And in the way that, let's say Alien handles it and this handle it are completely different based on age. So Alien, these are grown adult factory workers or space truckers or whatever they are, who get a signal from a ship, from like a LV, and it's their obligation to check it out, right? These kids are just like, F it, we're just gonna go and steal from this military base. What's the worst that could happen? Right? Total kid stuff. You know what I mean? And it's like, I was sitting there like, how did no one check them? There's no space, like there's no space like cop who was like, hey, you can't go to that military. That's Area 51. You can't just go to Area 51. You know what I mean? The whole planet probably knows it's there. How do they just go? You know what I mean? That was a bit of a plot hole for me. But it's all based on impulse. Like you said, it's based on,
right,
man, like F our situation. What do we have to lose? We're gonna do this, and we're gonna go to Elysium or wherever that planet was, and we're gonna live our best lives. You know what I mean? And the only person who had any kind of sense was our main character. She was just like, yeah, that's not gonna, this just can't work. And then they talked her into it and talked to Andy, who's the god. We'll talk about more about Andy later. Andy's the realist. 1,000 years Andy.
1,000 years Andy.
1,000 years Andy, dog. He's the man. Or the synthetic person, I'm sorry. But passing of the torch, the way I feel about it, you can never get too invested in the character in Alien movie because it's a horror movie and they're teenagers. It's almost like a slasher film if you think about it. You know what I mean? It's like final girl makes it out with her brother, and these are our protagonists moving forward. But we'll talk about more about that with the plot. But I think the passing of the torch, like you said, was okay. I think based on their age, how they get to point A to point B is a bit hyperbolic, just because I don't just see them just going and no one giving them any kind of problem with it. If this is this high-tech military installation, there should be like
especially after she just got told, oh yeah, you can't leave, you have to stay here another 5 years. She just got told that,
and she just leaves.
You know what I mean? So it's like, and she just and then she's like, oh okay, well see ya. Yeah, she just goes.
Yeah, she leaves and no one stops them. I would have wished there was some kind of like, oh, we got to sneak out or we got to steal a police spaceship because our spaceships will get flagged. No, they just go. And I was like, okay, if they're making you stay and anybody can go, what's really stopping you from going? If anybody could just go, you know what I mean? So that was my only plot point with that. But
Hmm. Hmm.
with that, I think we've done enough grabbing the xenomorph tail. We're getting into spoilers, people. We're getting into some crazy plot points and spoilers. So if you haven't watched the movie yet, pause this, go see it. I'm gonna tell you right now before we get to spoilers, I recommend this film. I have my problems with it, but I highly recommend it. But now we're getting into spoilers. What are your thoughts, Tootie, about spoilers? Spoilers.
I don't know. I didn't watch enough to understand a lot of the spoilers. I didn't see any spoilers. I didn't think anything was spoiled outside of a lot of the dialogue that was, there was a lot of references.
Yeah, just
And then
you know,
the creepy CGI cameo, which was, I mean, that's the only spoiler I got.
jeez. We'll
Because
talk
remember,
about that.
because we went to see this movie together. This is the first time him and I are both talking about it. By the way, we've been waiting a good 48 hours to even mention what the heck's going on and how we feel about it. And we went to see it together. It was pure torture. But I remember when we saw another one of the synths, I went because I tapped him because I know that guy. I know that guy. And so that was
Mhm.
the only thing that I thought was a pretty cool spoiler. But then I learned exactly why it's not cool. So
Let's talk
creepy.
about that. Let's talk about that.
Let's do it.
So let's just
Yeah.
jump right into that. So the plot, right? I'm not going to go through a whole synopsis. We already kind of explained it. Kids want to leave. Kids leave. Kids go to giant space house. Wackiness ensues, right? Um, we get space cameo by the late actor who played Ash from Alien, and there's a hubbub about them CGIing his face and using AI tech to replicate his voice. And people are like, that's kind of Grave Robbie, Death Mask weird. You know what I mean? And before we get into the plot, I want to talk about that and how I think we're going to see a lot more of that in Hollywood, where you're going to see a 25-year-old Clint Eastwood in a movie, or you're going to, even worse, you're going to see a enter your favorite actor in their prime, starring in a role with AI voice. It's kind of,
we're we're gonna see Prince and Michael Jackson in concert, directed by Harold Ramis.
yeah, directed by Harold Ramis and and Stanley Kubrick. You know what I mean? And
Guest
it's
starring
like
Phil Hartman.
guest starring Phil Hartman and Sam Kinison and
May they all rest in peace, by the
may
way.
they all rest in peace, dude. This is
It's
so weird,
creepy.
and it's like
Mhm.
I, if the family gave permission, it's still weird because it's like this is a loved one, this is someone's dad, this is someone's uncle, this is someone's son, and now he's back, and I don't know how I would feel about that if that was someone close to me. And I'm just like, that's not him. That's not even a ghost of him. That's a weird pet cemetery level reimagining of my dad. You know, like that would just be so weird. I don't know how to feel about it. I didn't
I can tell you, it's not comfortable. Like I couldn't do it. Like
I,
there's no way I can see my dad on TV right now doing anything when I know it's not him. Like no, 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 no. I don't understand how, if it was approved by the family, I can't imagine it was done comfortably.
they had
There's
to give
just no
them a
way.
ton of money in it. And it's like I'm happy because we were gonna record the day of, but I'm happy we didn't. I needed to sleep on this movie because that it took me a second to kind of I didn't know that off the bat. I didn't realize he was gone. And then I didn't realize they used AI for his voice, and it just gets weirder. The rabbit hole gets weirder and weirder.
Yeah,
And I'm just
yeah.
like, would I be okay with that? Probably not. Like, it's almost like I want to be cremated just in case my body comes back type stuff. You know what I mean? You know, and it's like, yes, we're on a podcast and our faces are right here. It can be deep faked, and all that fun stuff. But I don't know. It's just something that rubbed me the wrong way. I'm not going to hold it against this film, but I don't want it to be a, and I know it is going to be. I don't want it to be a fad. I don't want it to be something that's cool to do in your film. And they already did it in The Flash, where they brought back Christopher Reeve as Superman. Did you ever see that? Where they dug
Yeah,
Christopher
that's
Reeves
creepy,
up?
and it wasn't even done good.
It was done poorly. And
Yeah.
honestly, this if I'm going to give this movie a dig, This wasn't done good. It was a bit of uncanny valley there. You know what I
That's
mean?
true. Yeah, that's true.
I
I
just
mean,
think
it's better. It's better than most,
yeah, it was good, but it
but
wasn't.
yeah, it still was very uncanny valley face. Yeah,
Yeah, I just don't think we're
dead eyes.
there.
It's the dead eyes.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
doll's eyes, all black and lifeless.
yeah, black and lifeless.
Speaking of black and lifeless eyes,
Yeah,
let's talk about my boy Andy. Talk about the plot a little bit and how we feel about the
got
plot.
you.
I have some things to say about the plot, so I'm sorry. I feel that this is the third best Alien movie ever. Like Alien, Aliens, swap those out however you like. Alien Romulus. I think it blows all the other ones out the water. I can't wait to watch this in chronological order. That's the thing I want to do. But my biggest gripe is that it brings nothing original to the table. Um, it's kind of a Aliens greatest hits kind of approach to the scares, to the plot. I was just counting them off. Okay, here is the Alien Isolation. This has a whole lot of alien. You ever seen the video game Alien Isolation?
Mm-mm.
Where you get, we have to check out video of it. It's just one of the scariest games of all time. You're Ellen Ripley's daughter, and you're stuck in a space station, and one alien is chasing you the whole time. You have to hide from it, and it has an AI brain, so it's learning how you play, and then trying to catch you, and pretty much cause like it cause terror. It's terrifying. I won't play it; it's too scary. Um,
Is
but
it like that playable trailer esque type
yeah, it's like
thing, or like
PT.
grandma's house type that?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's like
okay.
grandma's house. It's like PT, but the thing is
Those games
after
are
you.
always terrifying.
Yeah, it's constantly after you, and it's learning how you play. So it's like, okay, you like to hide under bushes, so I'm going right under a bush to see if you're under there. Not there, you better switch it up because I'm coming. That type stuff, right? This movie, I was like, okay, here's the water scene from Alien where the guy gets killed, in where homeboy's trying to catch his cat in Alien One, and the water's falling. This is your first time seeing the alien. They replicate that exact scene in this film with one of the characters, and it's like water. I'm like, okay, here we go, and it just doesn't bring. It has original scares, which I'll talk about in our favorite scenes. But I was hoping it would do one or the other. Either it would be a gothic horror or it would be an action. Doing both, I try to please everyone is making it so it didn't please anyone. You know what I mean? So that's kind of like my feelings about the plot. And just curious to think, and I don't want that to deter your ideas about the plot, but I would love to hear. How did you feel about the plot moving forward?
No, yeah, that's understood. I loved I really did dig Andy. I love that they brought him in and introduced him very simple, very simple, very sweet. Um, I'm not sure if they were going for for an arc of him being a synth with special needs or something, but that's sort of the vibe that came off.
Hmm.
Once they got onto the military ship or whatever it was, and she switched his module with that of the other synth, it was game on. He became
Yeah,
a completely different robot,
you became
and I thought
badass, dude.
that was pretty badass to me. That was just it was interesting because he was still in there. Like he understood that his directive was still to do one thing, but this thing right here was telling him something completely different. So you can see the conflict and his face, especially like, but I got to do what I got to do. Like my orders are orders, and this is what I'm here to do. And there was no gray area. There is no gray area with him,
No,
which is pretty cool. It made the movie solid. His presence solidified the movie. Everybody else was kind of just blah here and there, blah, just in and out.
yeah,
Everybody else's presence was just in and out, and not just scene wise, in and out as in like we can care less if you're here or not, and that really does go for everybody. That even includes Rain. You
yeah,
know what I mean? Like whether they were there or not wasn't really relevant. His presence was absolutely relevant. He was very captivating throughout the entire thing. He is the plot. the whole thing was, what is the next decision Andy makes is gonna dictate the rest of the movie, and it
Hmm.
was like that throughout the entire movie, pretty much towards the end,
Hmm.
um, which is really cool. I did enjoy the jumps, a lot of the jump scares. It's easy. I'm easy. You can birds flying by scare the hell out of me, right? I literally saw one right now. Ah.
Yeah.
I have the window wide open, so it doesn't take much to scare me. So there's that. Um, but I did enjoy it. Like I said, there's certain things in this movie. If we're doing spoilers, the human baby man at the end. I mean, I know they've done it before, but the way they introduced it this time was pretty sick. Was absolutely
Yes.
disgusting. So one of these
Yes.
one of these young girls was, it turns out she was pregnant. Um, she ends up getting badly hurt. So they bring in the thingamajigger. I know you're going to explain it much better than I am, but anyway, she injects herself with something that enhances her pregnancy to the point where she goes from barely there to she's about to burst. Um, and so, fact, the baby's born, the baby turns into this otherworldly human man baby alien. It was gross. Like I said, like I know I've seen it before, but for some reason, the way they introduced it in this movie was just like, ugh, like what am I
Yeah.
watching?
What am I
And again,
watching?
I've seen things burst out of these people already in two other movies. For some reason, this one hit different.
Yeah,
But yeah,
because
I know you'll explain it much better than I will.
no, you hit it right on the head. But I was mentioning that it's like Alien Greatest Hits, right? That alien baby is
Yeah,
the
I mean,
exact
yeah,
same.
because the whole they had added Prometheus like for that little tiny bit. They even had Expedition, explaining it, which they didn't really have to do. But and again, the whole baby alien thing wasn't. You said it. It's just Aliens Greatest Hits. You said it. That's exactly what it was. Because that was really unnecessary.
Yeah, and what pisses me off is that Alien Resurrection ends the exact same way. They co-opt the
Oh,
human
okay.
birth
Yeah.
cycle. The alien queen gives birth to a newborn weirdo alien human hybrid thingy. Exactly the same. The only difference with this film is it was done good. The whole setup, the whole pregnancy scene where she gives birth and it's awkward, like very, like you said, drags you down to earth, very human, normal, like pregnancy. But it's almost like The Fly. Remember when she had that bad dream? It's like The Fly bad
Mike,
dream.
I was just thinking, and it went from like it went Cronenberg real quick.
Hmm.
It
It's so
really did.
Cronenberg. It's so Cronenberg.
Yeah.
You know. And then this thing grows from zero to grown man in 2 seconds. And it's funny because I found out it's a engineer human xenomorph hybrid. So it's part Prometheus. That's why it was all white and had that weird face. It almost reminded me of like Aphex Twin, like come to daddy, that kind of thing. And the way
Uh-huh.
the first, I'm sorry, that needed to be in the podcast. Um, check out Aphex Twin, by the way, listeners.
Yeah,
Do
shout
it.
out Apex Twin, I
And
guess,
shout out
as
Aphex
well.
Twin. It's just I don't. My brain works weird. Um, and it was creepy and it was different and it looked weird, but I just wish it was something different. I just wish they got a little bit more creative with that stinger because I want to talk about the xenomorphs.
Right.
And with every alien movie, there's always a villain, and it's never the alien, right? In Alien, it was Ash who was the true villain of the movie. In Aliens, it was Burke. I don't cuss much, but fuck Burke. It's always up for Burke. Burke's the worst. Burke is one of the worst characters in film history. Hate Burke. It's always up for Burke. But I would ask you, Tootie, who was the villain of this film? Because you can't say it's the aliens. They're kind of like a force of nature. It's the
Right.
crew.
I would say Officer Rook.
Yeah,
You know what? No,
the
no,
crew.
I wouldn't say it's the crew, only because they did it they did it by accident. If I don't know, I have to hear your opinion. I think it was Officer Rook because he came in. Well, when he came back or when they brought him back, whatever they plugged him in, whatever they did. Um, uh, he basically said, "Hey, I'm here to help you guys." He bait and switched them. He sweet talked them, and all of a sudden, "Hey, just so you know, alien boy, you have one job, and your job is to fuck these people over. If your job is to do what you have to do, even if you have to fuck these people over."
Hmm.
And that was it. Like no holds barred. This has to get to Wayland Otani or whatever the hell it's called. Otani, go Dodgers, whatever his name is. It has to
Go
go there.
Yankees.
You have to do it right now. Go Dodgers. And that was it. So if you ask me, he was the real villain because he could also manipulate the ship. He could also, he could do things, exactly right where he was. He didn't have to lift a finger. Had no fingers to lift in the first place. But I want to hear you. Tell me why you think it was the crew, because that's interesting.
Yeah. So I want to talk about Rook first. So Rook became active and started communicating to Andy and pretty much gave him his new prime directive, which is get the alien goo, bring it back to Weyland Yutani. We're going to work on it. That's your primary directive. So Andy was like, look, I'm going to go do this. If you want to come with me, you can. But my main primary directive is to get this back to Weyland Yutani. You can come with me and I will protect you, sister, but you're no longer my primary directive. So come with me if you want to live. You know what I mean? So it's like and then he just goes into action guy mode and he starts to rule. So but Rook was the means to an end because that was his programming to begin with, was to save the Prometheus goo. So I kind of see him as an environmental hazard as well, not necessarily a villain or a protagonist or antagonist rather. The reason I say the crew is because of their naivete. I say the crew because they put themselves in that situation. You know what I mean? It's like I look at the crew of the Nostromo. They were there doing a job, and they were put in this wacko situation. I look at the Colonial Marines. They were doing a job, put in a wacko situation. No one made those kids go up there. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like breaking into a haunted house. Once you're in the haunted house, it's your fault. You know what I mean?
Right.
And
You're right. They're their own worst enemy.
they're their own worst enemy. It's youth. It's naivete. It's I'm immortal. I can do anything. We're gonna get this done off of sheer grit and moxie. You know what I mean? And what did the the jerk in his girlfriend do? The second she got unfaced hug, they ran like cowards and left them to die, right?
Yeah.
On their ship that happened to weirdly
Yeah,
circle
they did.
back.
Yeah.
So villainous behavior. And then they still was like, okay, we're stuck in a situation now. There's no one else to blame but ourselves. Here we are. And now you have these pitfalls. You have facehugger pitfalls. You have Rook pitfalls. You have Andy pitfalls. Because there's a scene in this one that really disturbed me where Andy let Homegirl get taken. And Andy was
Yeah.
just doing numbers. Let's look, that thing
Right.
is right there and it's waiting for us to open the door. I can't open the door. She's pregnant. I get it. But I can't open that door because it's going to kill us all.
Right.
And then we're back to, and then game over, man. Game over. You know?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't see him as the villain. I see him as like
Me
you
neither.
know, come with me if you want to live. And this is the best way we're going to get through this. You know what I mean? Can you handle a gun? I sure can. I need your help to do this. I can't do it alone. You know what I mean? And then Andy gets taken out by one of the drones, which we find out there's a ton of aliens on this ship. From, you know, where's the crew? They're aliens now, and everything starts to fall apart. But I think the villain in this film, and this is like heady, so please call me out if I'm being like, Mike, relax. I think the villain is their own naivete. I think it's them not assessing the situation, them thinking they could just do anything without consequence, and their sin was their own youth. It's almost like Willy Wonka in the Chocolate Factory. You paid the golden ticket, you got
Yeah.
up there, and now you get to play in the haunted house. You know what I mean?
You lose. Good
Good
day,
day,
sir.
sir. You stole fizzy
Yeah.
lifting drinks. Sorry, I get really
Yeah.
passionate.
No, that makes complete sense. If there is going to be any type of antagonist, it isn't the aliens, of course, because like you said, they, you know, you swim with sharks, you're gonna get bit. Hello, get out of their house, get off their lawn, you
Shark
silly.
infested waters.
So yeah,
It's their water.
definitely, definitely, right, exactly. Definitely not the aliens. Um, Yeah, and then this whole thing of them turning on, they couldn't. My thing is they're naive to a fault. Now that you've said that, because they started turning on atmospheres, started fucking around with the gravity, started just awakening every mumbo jumbo in there. Everything was being heated up while those things were, sitting there frozen dormant for however long, and then all of a sudden they're awoken, and then these kids get caught by surprise that something in the atmosphere changed. So the atmosphere changes, and they don't expect other things to change with it. Like, you don't think that, I don't know what it is to be like in space or what it's like to live up there, but you would think like, okay, let's not do this just because we don't know what's up here. Just
Rule,
number one rule, like no matter where you're at,
rule number
you know,
one: never turn the power on. Never turn the
I never
power
turn
on.
the power on.
Because remember
Right.
in Resident
Don't
Evil,
have two phones in the house.
don't have two phones, don't have two lines in the house ever. So I think we did good. That was really good on the plot. I think that the plot has its problems. I have my problems with it, but overall it's fun because you're in the ghost house. And there's even a scene where it
Yeah.
feels like Halloween haunts. Remember the scene where they do those flash cuts to the bodies stuck to the walls, and it's just like really,
Yeah.
they're like,
Yeah.
oh, roller roller coaster, isn't this fun? I'm just like, oh geez.
hmm
You know what I mean? So
One thing I will say, I don't know if we're gonna get there, but honestly, I freaking love that this movie used so many practical effects.
let's talk
I
about it.
love it, and they did so well. They did so well with everything. Even the CGI was done well, and I'm not a huge fan of it. I'm an archaic old woman who loves practicality. They did a phenomenal job on this movie with the
Let's
practical effects. Every bit of it. Oh yeah, go ahead. Um every background, like all of it. There was a good mix of CGI and actual practicality. It was beautiful. Go.
oh, you hit this movie's beautiful. Let's get it straight. This movie is beautiful. These are practical sets. You said it. These are practical sets. Practical aliens. Practical face huggers. The score is kicking it. It has that event horizon level of art deco. You know what I'm saying? No set is wasted. You know what I mean? It
Right.
has that gothic horror like feeling that Alien provided, which is why I think it's a good mix of both Alien and Aliens. Is that it makes you feel claustrophobic, like the very first scene where they enter the ship and they have to go through that weird little crawl hole. I heard you go, "Oh hell no!" We were watching the movie.
Yeah.
It just automatically crunches you. It reminds me of that scene where Bishop had to shoulder crawl through like a mile of pipe to get to something. Remember that in Aliens where Bishop had to shoulder and he's like the hole is this big and he's just barely fitting
Yeah.
in. He has to like remind like I wouldn't be able to do it. No, that's just not happening. And this brings us to our favorite moments, favorite scenes. Before I go into mine, Tootie, what are some of your favorite moments and scenes of this movie?
Okay, okay, favorite scenes. I don't think I have any particular one. I did enjoy the the intimacy in that, like, when they said goodbye to each other, they really had no clue whether they were going to be back or not. I can't imagine living that way.
Hmm.
There's just these small slight touches that the crew gives each other. It's I love you, and maybe I'll see you again. And I always I and they're very subtle, but I thought those were very endearing moments. Andy, anytime Andy's running, terrified the shit out of me. I don't like robots running.
No.
This whole thing, like, come on,
Mm-mm.
bro, come on, run human, like run better human, like come on.
Cut it out. I don't like
So
that.
yeah, that stuff that was terrifying. The scene where they're floating through the acid blood, um, pretty. I thought that was pretty cool. That she made a decision to manipulate the gravity so that it actually did work. She was able to shoot
Mhm.
them. They were able to get through and kind of just float through all this alien blood, which again, a little bit cheesy, if you want to like if you want to be a jerk about it. But honestly, I thought it was pretty cool.
Mhm.
I thought it was done really, really, really well. And it's brilliant because it's only stupid if it doesn't work, right?
Right.
And it worked. So yeah, I thought that was pretty neat. Aside from that, like I said, once the movie turned Cronenberg, um, I was kind of out. I was kind of out.
Hmm.
uh, I
Mentally
like
checked
I
out.
said, yeah, I a little bit checked out because, like I said, there's so many movies that like, yeah, 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 yeah. Oh hell yeah, it's over. That was great, but then it keeps going. It's like, oh wait, why? Like the way we discussed Deadpool and Wolverine when they brought back Cassandra Nova. It's like, well, why?
Yeah.
And then at the end of this one, like, I mean, I suppose they had to do something because she was pregnant. You can't just end the story like that. Oh, she's pregnant and that's it. And she just, okay, she's pregnant. Bye. You're not
Bye.
just going to end a story that way. Obviously, she has to have the baby. There has to be some sort of like red ribbon tied to the end of that box.
Yeah.
No pun intended. Um, but
Jeez.
um,
Yeah.
but yeah, and again, I don't mind it so much. I just wish it was kind of done a little bit differently. But like you said, again, I can't compare it to Alien Resurrection. I did think it was done pretty cool. It was done in a way where ew, like that was gross. Like it would gross me out. It removed me from the movie, and not in a way where it's like I didn't enjoy the movie. It removed me in a way where, like Cronenberg, like
Mhm.
now you don't know, now you're not sure of anything.
The
Once you
reality
saw
is,
human man baby, now you're not sure of anything that's going on, and what's going to come next. And then the movie ends, which kind of sucked. I kind of like didn't like that part either. But man, those handful of scenes, were amazing. Andy absolutely carried the entire film.
absolutely. I love that you mentioned you stole my favorite scene, which is the hallway, liquid acid blood, Cirque du Soleil, zero gravity
Mhm.
moment. I thought that was very pretty. And with these movies like this, it's always like, what are you going to show me that I've never seen before? You know what I mean? How can you make Alien fresh? And it's like, okay, zero gravity, Cirque du Soleil, acid blood dodge technique, go. And I'm just like, okay, I mess with that, and it's pretty, and it was shot well. Another scene that I really dug was the first chestburster scene where they do that little light thing to Homegirl's chest, and you see it trying to make its way through.
Mhm.
At first, it made me mad because I was like, how is she popping already? The chest burster incubation in these movies fluctuates so much. Where in Alien, it took the guy like hours, right?
Mhm.
Like he had enough time to take a shower, have lunch with the squad, everything seemed normal, and
Mhm.
hello my baby, hello my darling. Um,
Hello, my
my
baby. Oh my
baby.
God. I'm sorry, but I could. There's no way in hell I was watching any one of those movies without singing that every single time it happened. Thank you, Spaceballs.
Thank you,
Spaceballs
Spaceballs.
review soon.
Spaceballs the flamethrower. And I was like, okay, they're showing it. It was a slow burn pop, crunch, crunch. Okay, we're gonna move on to something else. Crunch, crunch, and you're just like, what is it gonna be like? You see it finally happen, and this the actress, the actress who played the pregnant sister, did one of the best blood curdling screams, and they isolated it, so no other sound was happening, and it was just a perfect like horror movie sound bite. You know what I mean? I want to put it as a stinger
My
at the end of this
only
episode.
my only problem with that entire scene is that they fucking put it in the trailer.
I hate that. That's marketing.
They put the whole thing.
Marketing.
They put her putting the X-ray gun to her chest. That
Hmm.
was in the trailer. The blood bursting, the scene you have right here on your thumbnail, the blood bursting in her face and her screaming, that was in the trailer. So it's like, dude, that was one of the highlights of the movie, and you guys already put it out there. I didn't like that.
There's always a
I kind of.
sign. Yeah, it's always a sign they don't trust the film.
Mhm.
We have to put the pop in the trailer because they won't see it. Like, no, we
Mhm.
seeing it, bro. Um, the only
Mhm.
other scene I loved was the final battle with with the angry baby. You know what I mean? And she does the acid blood to the floor, and the sound drops out when the zero gravity hits. When the gravity hits,
Oh
and it's like
yeah.
it reminds me like Interstellar, and the whole theater was quiet for like maybe like five
Yeah.
seconds. And you can see all this because it's dead space, right? A lot of things they also take a lot of dead space from this film. The film takes a lot of dead space. That scene, I always love when they do that with sound. I love when they play with sound. You know what I mean? And this movie does a good job manipulating sound and making you feel atmospheric, making you feel uh, claustrophobic. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Scene where
Kind of.
they, even the scene where you mentioned that they do the cryo, and they dumbly thaw out like 30 or 40 face huggers at the same time. There's something in the bloody water. And next thing you know, this guy has something.
Yeah.
It's getting him, like get off me. And, and that part bothered me because I didn't like any of that. But it's almost, I would say that's another scene I like, but it came this close to being overkill. Because like we get it, face huggers are scary. How about 30 face huggers? It's just like, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
But they
Yeah, I
did it,
agree. Yeah.
it made sense and they did it tastefully. And it's like, how are all these people still alive? Face huggers are almost as formidable as xenomorphs because they're hiding under a blanket or something. Next thing you know, just and you're gone. There's nothing much you can do. You know what I mean? They got you. You're got. And it's like, out of all these people, of course, one's going to get got. And do we know what happened to that alien? Did they kill that alien? The very first alien, the xenomorph that hatched from Homegirl. They don't kill that, do they?
No, I don't think so. Honestly, I thought it stayed on the ship with them when they left.
I thought I saw it. I thought I saw it at the end of the movie, and that they were going to do some kind of xenomorph versus big baby fight. You know what I mean?
Oh, what?
That's what I thought was going to happen.
Hey, don't get me started. I enjoyed Alien versus Predator. I definitely will enjoy that. So
yeah, I was like, "Yo, let's go." Didn't end up happening. That's fine. We got big baby instead with his weird silver teeth. And it's weird.
Big baby man alien.
Big baby with his weird tongue, like little, like Guillermo del Toro Blade 2 tongue. You know what I mean?
It's really weird because I mean it reminded me of like Freddy Krueger. If Freddy Krueger was one of his weird fever dreams.
Yeah.
Doing Freddy Krueger shit. That's what it reminded me of.
Yeah, bitch. Come on, bitch. I was waiting for the thing to say something. I was waiting for it to scream.
Yeah, me too. Actually, a little bit. Scream, to scream something.
Yeah, like so much stuff, not enough space, and they're in space.
And they're in space. Yeah,
and they're in space. But no, they showed a little bit of restraint, so thank God. With that, it's time for our final verdict. It's time for us to give a score and final thoughts on Alien Romulus. Tootie, the floor is yours.
Okay. Okay, I'm gonna just come right out. I'm gonna give it a 6 out of 10. I did enjoy it. I'm glad I watched Alien and Aliens before I watched this one. This one is incomparable. Those doesn't compare to the other two. And again, what it is basically a replica of the both, and apparently of others. I do remember watching Prometheus, but I didn't make the connection that it was part of the Aliens franchise. I did see it though, just on a whim. I don't remember why I watched it, but I did see it. So I guess that's cool. Yeah, 6 out of 10. Fun movie. I'm trying to think of what I can think of how it could have been better. I guess the plot could have been a little bit stronger in a sense, but again, it really worked well for the characters that were in it. So like, there's even that's not much of a complaint because kids work on impulse, and these kids were working on impulse, and shenanigans ensued. As far as plot holes are concerned, I guess there are a couple. Like I said, at the end, like the end was already there. They were already off. They were good to go. They should have left it at her. This is Rain, whatever, signing off. They should have just left it there. They couldn't just leave it there. They left it. They ended up doing the whole baby alien thing. I guess you need one more because it's a horror movie. Horror movies love to do that. They love to do the thing. Oh, all is right with the world, and then oh no, it's back. So they do tend to do that a lot. I'll take your word for it that it was done well because it did disturb the hell out of me. I was just of the idea that it wasn't necessary. It was a parenthesis that didn't need to be there to me.
I love it.
So yeah, 6 out of 10, but good movie overall.
100%. And you hit the nail right on the head. Alien films, ever since Aliens, there needs to be a final boss, right? A final boss creature. May it be the queen alien, may it be the dog alien, may it be the newborn, which was an Alien Resurrection, and now we're going to call this one Big Baby. Big Baby's the real
Big Baby Man, yeah.
Big baby man. I'm gonna give this movie a 3.5 out of 5. Like a three, if I'm gonna be completely honest with myself. I said earlier that this is the third best Alien movie of all time, and it is. But that's not saying much because of Alien 3, Alien Resurrection, which is popcorn. I love Alien Resurrection. It's like how you feel about AVP. It's how I feel about Alien Resurrection. It's fun for me. Ron Perlman's in it. Sigourney Weaver shoots a behind the back three and makes it. It's a stupid movie,
Nice.
but I love it. It's childhood fodder. I love it. And I think this film, like I was mentioning earlier, had a bit of an identity crisis in regards to not not fully committing to a direction. It wanted to have the gothic horror and the suffocating threat of Alien, but also wanted to have the guns, guns, guns action sequence of Aliens. And unless your name is James Cameron, that's really hard to do because you can't feel helpless with a AK-47. You know what I mean? It's hard to feel
Right.
trapped when you're Arnold Schwarzenegger with the 50 cal. You know what I mean? So it's like either your survival horror puts you in a space. If they didn't give these kids any weapons and they just had to navigate using their own sheer grit and figure it out, that would have been way more scary. You know what I
For
mean?
sure.
But you have Captain America, who is Andy, running around like solving problems. They gave them pulse rifles. You know what I mean? And our hero went from zero to Ripley, which I don't think that was earned. You know what I mean? She just turned on like Ripley. When Ripley went back for Newt, Ripley was fed up with all of it at that point, right? And Ripley had a literal catharsis, like change of attitude. I'm gonna go get
Yeah.
my child, pretty much. Here, it's like she just turned into superhero out of nowhere, and she didn't really show any semblance of like grit until she had to, and I
Hmm.
just thought that was a missed
Hmm.
opportunity. And it's like, I'm gonna go back and get Andy. You go, and then she turns it on, and it's like, okay, we're badass now. And it's like, it didn't feel earned, if that makes sense.
Right. Right.
So that's my biggest problem with that. But I give it like a half a score, like 3.5 out of 5. It fits beautifully within the franchise. I think, like you said, you don't have to watch all the other yeah. Watch Alien and Aliens and Prometheus. That's all you need to watch, and this will make sense. And this takes place timeline wise between Alien and Aliens. Fits right in the middle. So I think this is required reading moving forward for all fans of the Alien franchise. And I think that it is worth your ticket. I think it's a fun ride. I think you'll have a good time. I definitely get your sentiment for the last scene. Felt a bit unnecessary, felt a bit forced, but we got a big baby man out of it. You know,
True.
the world
True.
is a
There's a
brighter place with big baby man and his
that
long
thing looked at
arms.
me.
That squirrel can water ski.
Yeah. Yeah. Overall, very good movie.
Very.
Definitely number three for me. It's Aliens, Alien, and then that one. Man, for Aliens being a sequel, that's a phenomenal movie. Like
It,
that's a phenomenal movie for sure.
I'll I'll end it with this. It's so unfair to put it against Alien and Aliens. It's like Terminator 1 and Terminator 2. You know what I mean? It's like you're against some of the best movies ever. That's a strong act to follow. But your name
Yeah.
has Alien in the title, so it's fair to make those comparisons. But what are you gonna do? It's like
What are you gonna do?
it's tough. You're up against titans. You know what I mean? So with that draws the end of our review of Alien Romulus. Tootie, where can we find you?
You can find me on Instagram at the Love Hub _LA. My Instagram focus is to just promote and encourage others and support others, especially locally here in Los Angeles. If you have anything that you like to promote, send it my way via the the direct messenger, the DMs is what they call it. Yeet.
Yeah.
Um, Also, Masters of the Nerdiverse. I just want to say that Masters of the Nerdiverse will be live and in person in Almonte September 7th and September 8th. I'm going to do a media run there for an event called Gemwork Fest. And that, again, that'll be September 7th and September 8th. You can go ahead and hit me up on Instagram. I can give you all the information that there. We're going to be doing interviews. We're going to be hopefully doing some live streams if we can. And hopefully I can get Mike G to go there for both days. I'm praying that I can convince him to do that. But guys, you know this guy. This guy does not like people. He does not like getting outside.
I hate everyone ever. I love you guys. I love my audience. I love
No,
you guys
you
so
don't.
much. No, it's just I need punch and pie to make an appearance. Will they be punch and pie?
There will be pie and coffee, sir.
Okay, that's enough. That's enough to drive the Mikey Bear out of hibernation and forage for fans and food
Yeah.
and
September
get to
7th, September 8th. Come out. Come and meet us. Come hang out.
come hang out, hang out. And as Mike G, you know where you can find us. Find us on our website, mastersofthenerdiversecast.com, where you get all of your Masters of the Nerdiverse goodness from every episode we've ever done, to merch, to YouTube videos. It's all there. Of course, you can find us on Spotify, here on YouTube, and also on anywhere you listen to your podcast. Um, the next episode is always going to be a mystery, but I have a good feeling that it's going to be a great one, just like this one was. Any last thoughts, Tootie, before we go ahead and sign out?
Nope. As always, it's an honor and thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for being here, Tootie. You are literally the lighthouse that shines upon the nerdiverse. There she is, kids.
There she is, kids.
The Tootie Odin.
Oh, the lights.
Ah, the lights.
The lights.
The lights. And with that weirdness, as I always sign out, look towards the skies, look towards the skis.
Yeah.